Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our first Female Founders Forum, which is the last panel discussion of this season's Preface webinar series. In my experience, most women are more willing to share and support other women around them. And today we have a wonderful group of women here to share their stories of launching their own fashion brands. As we know, this has been a year like no other. And there are many in our industry who have experienced shifts within their own jobs, whether they've had to relocate, work from home, accept lower pay, or have lost their job altogether. And as we continue to experience this shift, I know there are a collection who are considering if it is the right moment for them to start their own company. So I thought there was no better time than to ask these successful entrepreneurs here with us today to give us some honest advice as they share their own journeys. My name is Betsy Frangiola, and I'm the founder of Preface and the owner of Betsy Frangiola Fabric Studio. I think most of the people participating here today are already aware of Preface and BFF Studio, but if you'd like more information, please check us out at prefaceshow.com. We do have more experience kits available this season, both complimentary and premium, so if you haven't ordered one yet, please feel free to order. Today's webinar is recorded. We created a YouTube channel for Preface this week, which my 7-year-old son thought was super cool until he watched my first webinar video on sustainability. And because it didn't have anything to do with superheroes or gaming, it wasn't that cool anymore. But I'm excited about it. We will also share these links on the Preface website. Later today, we will present our 2 vintage showcases with Susan Lee from Wilder, featuring incredible denim and t-shirts. And Maya Miller is going to share romantic rituals with heritage lingerie and tea ceremony ideas. So it's perfect for Valentine's Day. If you have any questions throughout this chat today, post them in the chat box, and we are going to save a little bit of time at the end to answer them. And so with that, I'm going to kick things over to the lovely Oksana, who I'm thrilled has agreed to moderate our discussion today. And she's going to introduce herself and then kick it around to everyone to get started. So thanks for participating.
Much, Betsy. Welcome. My name is Oksana Rinsgma. I'm joining you from Toronto today to be moderating this panel, and I'm super excited. We have some amazing women we're going to hear from today. Just a very quick background on me. I run a custom suiting program for women here in Canada. So we specialize in made to measure and made to order services with a focus on reducing consumption and sustainability. So really excited to see some other women that have a lot of really aligned verticals and interested to see their experience on what it's been like going through the last year and building a brand to the heights that it is today. So we're going to kick it off with Ellen is the first person. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, a little recap on your founder story, and maybe just tell us one thing you can think of that you would have done differently upon starting your brand.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I'm speaking to you from Lewis in England, which is on the south coast of England. Maybe it's England's California. I am the founder and director of a clothing brand called Sideline, which I launched in 2016. So I'm actually just launching my 11th collection tomorrow. I do 2 collections a year and then drop things in throughout the season. My brand is a contemporary women's wear collection with a focus on sustainability and clothes that are made to last. And I started my brand after many years in the fashion industry working for other brands as a kind of want to do something for myself. Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, and something I would do differently. I think actually I would have opened up my supply base a bit earlier. I started off with just one supplier, which is always quite stressful. Obviously, you've got a big, if something goes wrong with that supplier, it's a big risk to the business. And you're obviously like kind of constrained by their specialism. So I think now I've opened up my supply base a bit more. I feel a lot more comfortable in general.
Amazing and very valid advice, especially year like last year where we saw a lot of manufacturers and suppliers not being able to produce. So really important. Curious for you, Ellen. I mean, you come from a pretty extensive background working with other brands, as you said. Your Sideline is a little newer, just in longevity here. What pushed you to start your own line? What made you make that decision and made you feel comfortable to go out on your own?
Well, I've worked across the industry. So starting out as a designer, actually in the States with Abercrombie and Fitch, which is where I met Betsy. And then I worked for Abercrombie, Hollister, etc., but from the UK. And I went on to work for quite a lot of other brands. I worked in trend and forecasting as well as design. And then I started consulting on the supply side as well. So I felt like I had a really good experience across the board of building a brand, a design, and seeing what goes on the supply side. And I guess I just really wanted to own something from start to finish. Maybe I'm a bit of a control freak. And do something that I felt really passionate about, because I was often designing for a customer that wasn't necessarily me. And yeah, I guess also a bit of a backlash against like the fast fashion industry, wanting to do something that had a bit more longevity in its make, and also the whole kind of feel of the brand, and focusing on sustainability, as I said before, which when I launched the brand, there weren't so many brands doing that. Obviously, it's a massive focus now. So yeah, I guess I just felt like I was in a good place with the experience that I'd gained to move into doing something on my own.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're very excited to see your collection dropping tomorrow.
Thank you.
In case you guys missed it, for anybody who joined later, Ellen has her new collection dropping tomorrow for Sideline. So if you want to check it out, it goes amazingly. So we're going to move on to Lynh, is the next speaker we're going to hear from. So if you could just introduce us, tell us where you're from, a little recap on your founder story, and again, one thing, just pick one, one thing that you would have done differently going about starting your career.
Hi, my name is Lynh Haaga, and I am co-owner of Femme and Noir with my business partner, Micheline Pitt. And it's a line of kind of higher end Gothic collection where Hot Topic people grow up and still want to be goth, but don't want the fast fashion and teenager kind of catering that Hot Topic does. So we've been very successful with that. And I also am a VP of development and production imports for Micheline Pitt's collection called Vixen. And I do have an offside private label consulting company called Haaga Studios. And in that realm, I develop and design and produce handbags, leather, as well as polyurethane for companies like Aura Delphine, and Love Paint and Stitches, which has an incredible following on Instagram. And I do private label imports for other clienteles like Lucky Brand in the past. I feel like my career has been all over the place because I've been in the industry since 1994. So I went to art school at Art Institute of Chicago, cut my teeth there, thought I was going to be an artist, and decided to pivot and go into fashion because my father is a master tailor. So I've always known how to sew, been around clothing all my life. So it was a natural extension of who I was. And in New York City is where I found internship and full-time work as a design assistant for higher end companies like Gemma Khan back in the day and Charles Chang Lima. And I did dabble with having my own lingerie company back then too, because I really wanted to set out on my own and do my own thing, and realized it's very hard to wear several hats all at the same time, being the accountant and taking that off and being the shipper and the designer and the pattern maker. So that was a huge learning lesson for me. Very successful. However, I could not keep it going. I eventually moved down to Los Angeles because my husband's in the film industry, and decided to continue the business, but it just was petering, and went into corporate. Worked for companies like BCBG as a senior designer. and then went to BB as well as Forever 21, where I met Betsy. I was a senior designer there for a collection, and she was a textile director there as well. And long story short, got the axe, a big round of layoffs, and didn't know what to do, and thought, oh, this is going to be easy. I'll just find another corporate job. It was very trying to find somebody that would pay what my experience had to offer without, taking a pay cut. So long story short, I started getting into private label, doing development and handbags, and I just started becoming my own brand, where people came to me because I had so much knowledge of imports and how to import things and produce things overseas. Just kind of fell into the handbag collection. And then until my friend Micheline and I were just talking, and we have the love of horror movies and monsters and stuff, and we were just thinking one day that we could make like a collection together. She just came out of pinup girl clothing, and she's like, why don't we just do a small collection of swimwear? And so we did horror-based ideas like Vampira's swimsuit. We eventually did the licensing for Vampira, and it just started snowballing. We just took each very tiny seed money. She blessedly is a big Instagram influencer, so it really helped us in terms of people knowing who she was and allowing us and believing in us to prepay and pre-order stuff. And that's how we got the ball rolling in terms of financing our business from start. So no money loans from the bank. We did it all in 2017, and here we are. We're moving into our new building next week.
Amazing. I love that. So what is one thing that you would have done differently?
One thing I would have done differently is probably try to find from the beginning experts and kind of job out certain things, because there's a certain time where you just cannot do everything. You can't do the bookkeeping. You can't go collect money as well as spend money and do the production downtown. And if the money allowed it, we probably would have jobbed out a lot of the artistic part too as well, because it is time consuming in terms of making the textile and the artwork development from it. We're finally at a point where we're allowing ourselves to do that and be okay as the creative directors and finding talent so that it enhances our business rather than us doing all that at once.
For sure. So, I mean, speaking of wearing many hats, you still wear a lot of hats. You're still doing a million things. And for anybody who doesn't know here, Lynh has also been battling breast cancer this past year, since last March started treatment, which is amazing considering we've been going through the wildest year that any of us has gone through, living through a pandemic. You're still running 2 brands successfully. I don't know how you do it. So would love to hear a little more about how you balance that and what you can share about dealing with health challenges when you're your own boss. What does that look like for you?
It's been a whirlwind. It's been very tough. I mean, for all of us, just to go through the pandemic and try to pivot and figure out how we're going to make things safe for our team and safe for us, as well as keep going. It just was a shock. Betsy and I were in the beginning helping import masks in, and all of a sudden, a month later, I find out I have stage 3 breast cancer, and my world just shuttered. It just collapsed. Everybody did circle around me, and amazingly, everybody took up a little part of the responsibility so that I can stay home to be safe. My partner would meet me here at the house instead of having me go to the store. We have a store in Burbank, and we had to hire a production manager because mainly I was running around downtown to finish cuttings and sewing and picking up fabric, picking up samples and markers. That couldn't have been done. My partner was amazing in being the runaround. My son and husband picked up the delivery and pickups and stuff that I could not deal with, so I had to stay home and do it. In terms of closure we had to close our store because it was just unsafe for us to have customers as well. So we relied a lot on our e-commerce and to immediately staff up in terms of the the shipping and e-tailing of that portion of it, just because we were losing a lot of money from the store being closed. So I don't know how I got through chemo, so, like 4 months of chemo through it, but it would just be like every week I would go through chemo, and I knew the days that I would be down for the count. And then my partner would come here, we'd rush in whatever we could so that I can get stuff done. And then she would just leave me alone for like 4 days out of that every month. So I did that till September 22nd, and then surgery in November, and now finally at the last tail end of radiation. So I just don't know. I don't stop. I wish I could, really, but it probably helped me to concentrate and keep my mind away from the cancer, just because I was busy. So yeah, I think it's anybody who goes through any, personal or work-related extraordinary event, you can do it. You can definitely power through, but there was just an immense support system that allowed me to do that.
Amazing. Well, you are very inspiring and strong, and have a lot of respect and admiration for that. So really amazing work that you're doing. Thank you for that. Just a reminder for everybody, we are going to be taking some questions at the end, about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions you're thinking of while you're listening to the speakers, while you're listening to the speakers, just pop them in the chat, and then we'll circle back and ask them in the last 10 minutes. So we're going to move on to Jodie. If you could introduce yourself again, a little bit of your founder story, tell us about your brand, and one thing that you would do differently.
Hi, I'm Jodie Dolan. I hope it's not too noisy. Can you guys hear all that, or is it okay? It's okay. I am the founder of Dolan, which is a women's contemporary brand, and also the founder of the Laundry Truck LA. Dolan is a brand that I founded in 2004. I've had the brand for a while. I started off with no business background. I started with an art history degree, I'll just say. No experience in the industry, no business degree, no experience in fashion design, whatever. I was just basically like making t-shirts in my garage at night and taking them to the flea markets on the weekends and seeing what I could do. And eventually got up enough courage to get a sales rep and start a real company. So pretty quickly I caught the fashion bug and turned the company into like a manufacturing and sourcing hub, I guess I would say. And we had large retail partners like Anthropologie, Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, and really like full on, multiple collections, multiple labels, 5 seasons a year, daily development, like quite a lot. And it was totally fun, totally exhausting. But I think that probably my passion for textiles and materials in general is like, what is the thread that carried through all of it, and why I felt like I was probably able to like learn something new every single day and still be delighted by like whatever we were doing, because it was new and exciting every day. So basically, like, we are really lucky that we have these craftsmen in LA. I mean, knowing that denim and t-shirts are like some of the best in the world coming out of LA, I was able to learn a lot from like this local community of people. I was just super curious and super pesty. So people would just teach me some things. And then that, I think curiosity took me all around the world, and with my big passion for textiles. So like I spent a lot of time in India working with craftsmen and like slow fashion handwork there, and Paris and Guatemala and China, and like really focusing on what each region is really good at in terms of product, and then trying to like really produce authentic things from each region. And for us, I think that a big part of our success was filling in niches within the big retailers where they needed something, and we were kind of like an idea lab for a lot of these big retailers and actually small retailers, and bringing them fun ideas. And I think that that helped us create a lot of relationships. So ultimately, like our business was just with our customers, which are retailers. And I knew for a long time we needed to connect with the end consumer, but it was a really hard jump because we were such a traditional wholesale company. So finally in 2019, I guess better late than never, we launched shopdolan.com. And we were able to start thinking about like, you know, the direct relationship and building this business. It's also when we launched the Laundry Truck LA, which is our nonprofit, which is mobile laundry service that we have 2 big mobile laundry trailers, huge trailers that do laundry for people experiencing homelessness in LA. So basically, like, there was a big shift a couple years ago, and then with the pandemic, it totally helped us like we shift the whole company to a digital first company. So all the noise kind of went away. My relationships with the city officials really helped. In the very beginning of the pandemic, they reached out and asked if we would make masks and PPE as donations for frontline workers, which we did, like no questions asked, I think in March. And so we did like a 1-for-1. We've donated now almost 80,000 masks. And what it did was it really helped us realize that there was like this emerging need in fashion and consumer like interest in products that protected and cared. It not just like the frontline workers that needed N95s, but there was maybe this other area where there's still products that people are looking for that you know, had these elements of protection and care, but were cute and feminine and soft and things that we were already really pretty good at. So we were able to really shift our whole company at that point, and we streamlined like our product offerings and everything. So it's pretty aligned now with our mission and core of this like protection and care for our community. So we still work with these large retailers, but I think our business is a lot more balanced, and we're able to now have conversations with our customers directly. And then like my passion for textiles has now shifted really over to an innovative space where I'm working with medical experts and scientists and all sorts of innovators around textiles to offer like some of the same things we would be doing, but with functionality. So it's been like obviously a challenging year for all of us, but we were able to really shift and use it to kind of inform what we do next.
Yeah. Amazing. And I mean, you've had several twists and turns in the journey. I'm sure the last 2 years have been really interesting for you. Really amazing how you've been able to pivot and work with government officials. And I mean, 80,000 for donations is incredible. That's great. So congratulations on all that you're doing for the community. That's amazing. But interested to know what that means, or what you think that means for the medium-term future for your business, with such a strong focus on PPE right now, which we have no idea how long that's going to be a relevant focus for. What do you think that means for Shop Dolan as a brand? Are you going to try to transition back at all into focusing on more contemporary pieces, or are you trying to make it more of a functional medical brand moving forward?
We're definitely feeling like it's an opportunity to like do better, to create clothes that do more. So obviously we are making hundreds of thousands of gowns, welded isolation gowns and all of that PPE stuff. But also we now know that we can create products that have antibacterial finishes or antibacterial elements within the fiber, so they don't wash out, so that we can wash our clothes less. And obviously that's better for the environment, right? So, and then creating clothes that have UV protection so that we're protecting from the environment in different ways. I mean, I think that there's a lot of different ways, unique ways to think about how our clothing can protect us and sort of care for us in a self-care way. We're working with doctors in some trials, how some of our things can basically help with cell recovery. And so, no, I don't think we'll go backwards. I think we're using this time to basically say like, how can we learn more? How can we be more curious? And how can we create like, beyond just like sustainable stuff? How can we sort of move this forward and really innovate? I think for me, one of the most exciting things about the pandemic, if I take away the challenges of it, is like all the different industries that butted up against each other during this time. And I think that's really where the innovation comes from. It's like we were all siloed before, and now you know, we're working with, like I was saying, scientists and medical experts and all sorts of people that would, you know, that they're doing something over there in their space we didn't know about, you know, for different functional industries. So yeah, I think it's, I think it'll continue, and it'll be really exciting to see the things that we're offering this year. I feel very, very inspired by.
Amazing. I mean, you should feel inspired by it. It's great. It's a great direction to go in, and there's a huge amount of opportunity in the textile world. So it's definitely an important focus to have right now. So that's
yeah,
great.
Not to say it's all like roses, but it's definitely also, there's an upside, I feel. So
good to see the light as well. Okay, so the last person we're going to introduce, then we'll circle back and ask some more questions. But the last introduction here is Ali. So again, if you could just introduce a little bit of your founder story, where you're located, and again, what that you would do differently. I know you might have a bit of a different answer because you've had your brand for over 2 decades now. So I'm sure some things have changed, but we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, my name is Ali Mejia, and I am the co-founder of Eberjay. We are a sleepwear, lingerie, and swimwear brand based out of Miami, Florida. And we have been in business for almost 25 years. Our anniversary is this July, so it's a huge milestone for us. And honestly, I'm still in disbelief that we've made it this far, and honestly very proud, especially after such a challenging year. So I started the business with my business partner in my early 20s without any experience at all, zero fashion experience. Even though I always had a passion for fashion, I was a politics major and worked on Wall Street after I graduated from college. And I always knew that I wanted to do something in fashion, but I had no idea how that would even happen. And for some weird reason, I always loved lingerie and sleepwear. It wasn't about dresses, ready to wear. I had zero desire for that. It was really this passion for homeware, and I saw a huge need for it. At the time, it was all about Victoria's Secret, and it was all about over-sexualizing the woman and everything about, you know, what the man wanted and nothing about what, you know, women truly wanted. So I was very clear that there was a void in the market. And I told my business partner about this idea I had. We were co-workers at a direct marketing agency. I had by then moved to Miami. I had been in New York, but was really feeling unfulfilled and moved to Miami. And I shared with her my idea, and she always wanted to start a business, but didn't really know what she wanted to do exactly. And we just came together. We were the perfect balance, very yin yang. I'm the creative. She's, you know, very analytical and very business minded. And so she's the CEO. I'm the chief creative officer. And okay, what else can I tell you that, well, what would I do differently, or what happened in COVID? Maybe a little bit about that. Obviously, COVID changed everything. We were a wholesale model, much like Dolan, and we were really focused on the department store business. We had been able to get into Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, all of them, and a ton of boutiques. And it was a crazy ride. Honestly, we were actually really burning out. We couldn't manage the process. Our supply chain was a little very messed up. We didn't have the right team in place. We were just going, and COVID hit, and basically all the department stores canceled their orders. And we really hit rock bottom. And Mariela and I, my business partner, were like, wow, 25 years, you know, it felt like we were about to lose it all, but we just powered through it. We rethought our strategy. We pivoted to D2C. We got the whole team into, you know, we're gonna be, you know, consumer focused and talk to our customers, and we did. And luckily for us, we were in the right product category. During COVID, everybody wants pajamas and loungewear and, you know, being comfortable at home. And I think because we had been in the market for so long, people, you know, trusted us and trusted our product. And we really felt like an obligation to make women feel better. It was really like this soulful, you know, oh my goodness, we have to do everything in our power. And we changed our messaging. We we did everything we could, and we turned it around, and we had thankfully a really great year and have been able to really change our business. So if I would do anything differently, I mean, a couple things. I would definitely be less hard on myself. You know, I feel like the growth comes in all of those setbacks, and embracing them and really honoring that something, you know, necessarily looks maybe awful on the outside, but it will always lead to growth and evolution and a different way of thinking, or, you know, a pivot. So I've learned to see things very differently. Before, when something, you know, seemingly negative happened, I would get really upset about it. And now I'm like, okay, I can handle this. It's you know, it's an opportunity. And so that has really shifted in me. The other thing that has been really clear during COVID is that we used to chase like a ton of bright, shiny objects. Like we're like, oh, let's do maternity, you know, oh my goodness, let's do this, let's do that. And what we realize that you have to focus on what you do really well, focus on your hero products, and don't chase all these different areas that, you know, they sound great, but really in the end take up so much time, so much energy, and it just takes a lot to scale them, right? You already have something good, focus on that, and focus on scaling. So those are the two things that I would say I would tell my younger self. I mean, there are many more, but just to keep it short and brief.
Amazing, thank you. So speaking of scaling, can you, I mean, again, as you know, 25 years, it's amazing. And although a lot has changed in the last year with COVID, understandably, you have had a ton of relationships with wholesalers and a huge reach and brand identity, which is incredible. So really, congratulations on what you've built. It's amazing. But can you share a little bit about what the challenges have been scaling to get to the point that you've gotten to?
Yes, I think the wholesale model, especially for a niche category like ours, which is sleepwear and lingerie, was really difficult to scale. I mean, we did the best we could, and we did pretty well. I think, you know, we were quite successful by industry standards, but this shift to D2C and our e-commerce is just a whole other world. I mean, we're in control. We're in charge of the message. We're in charge. We learn so much from our customers. We used to wait so desperately for the department stores to give us feedback, like what sold, what didn't sell, like what, you know, what did customers react to, what color was and it was always a mishmash of information from all the different you know, stores. And so it was really hard for us to hone in on what we were really, really good at. And so I feel like scaling now seems so much more possible in a crazy way. And we have, you know, we do have this amazing brand reach because we have been in the market for so long. And now we're taking all of that and just honing it into our e-commerce business at the same time as maintaining our relationships with the department stores and our boutique stores that have maintained, you know, a certain amount of sales throughout the years, because it was a lot of work to also maintain these smaller accounts. And so now we're omni-channel. That's how we see it. We also have 4 stores. That was, again, something like, oh, let's go into retail. And it's been wonderful, but it's been really hard. I mean, retail is not easy. And so now we see ourselves as like this omni-channel brand, and we're learning from each of the different channels and applying it to the other. And hopefully the customer understands our whole brand and experience and has the same experience at least at our store level and our e-commerce. The department store is hard. They do what they want. They merchandise it how they want. We try to send merchandisers in there, but it's hard. It's just a hard model, but it's wonderful. It has, you know, it has its place. That's what I'm saying. Now it's like it each has its place, and we're learning to have, you know, this new model.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna now shift into some questions that I have for all of you guys. If you could all answer, that would be great. But if you, if only a couple of you want to answer, that's totally fine as well. So first question is, I know you come from different lengths of time in business, different categories. So I think everyone has a unique perspective here. How have you found the consumer behavior changing over the last year? Like, it's obviously retail's gone through a really big shift. We've seen a lot of difference in what the corporate wholesale side is asking for and also the abilities. But what do you see from the consumers? How are they buying and what are they asking for that's changed from last year? And do you think this is going to be a continuing trend moving forward? Can we start with Ellen?
Yeah, so I've actually had my best year ever, both on wholesale and direct to customer online business. And I think the main reason for that is that obviously the shops have been closed. My brand is a bit more of an investment. It's not super expensive. It kind of sits in the middle, but it's clothes that I think you would put more thought to buying. So I think that consumers are being more thoughtful about their purchases, and they've got time to think about what they want to buy, invest in pieces that are going to last, that they're going to get a lot of wear out of, that are sustainable, rather than maybe being in somewhere like Zara and impulse buying 5 pieces. There's also obviously been a shift in the way people are spending money. They're not traveling, going on holiday, eating out in restaurants. So I feel like people are investing more in maybe treating themselves online in that way. And then I think also I'm a small brand. I have quite a small customer base relative to my competitors. And I think people have really liked sort of connecting on a personal level. At the beginning of the pandemic, I had to do things differently, like photograph things on myself at home. And I got a really good feedback from that. I think seeing the clothes on a real person, seeing on the person that's behind the brand. I absolutely hate doing it. So it's usually without my head on. But if I do that, the item will sell out really quickly. And I think I've kind of had to shift in the way that I drop product as well. So I do a big launch at the beginning of the season, but then I'm dropping, like doing little drops within the season, maybe 1 or 2 pieces. And they've worked really well. And then also on a pre-order basis, people seem willing. Like if I sell out, I've had some pieces that have sold out in a couple of hours, and then I'll want to make more. I'll get a lot of requests for that from the customer, and they're willing to put their money up front, and I can make the exact number of pieces, which is obviously really great from a sustainability point of view as well. So I guess the main thing has been that like communication and connection directly with the customer for me. Amazing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And congrats on a great year. I love to hear these positive vibes here.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
Yeah, no, it's great. All right, awesome. Lynh, would love to hear your thoughts on this, especially because with the consulting and the handbags, and then with La Femme and Noir, you have 2 very different verticals here. How have you seen that affecting your customer base?
So basically with La Femme and Noir, we started with extreme, like a personal catering to a specific customer, but also we have a salon where we have members that join and they share what they're wearing, they share their size. We're very inclusive on size, from extra small all the way to 4X in terms of age as well. So we get a lot of body types that do wear our clothes, and then they'll share their measurements so that people can see and visualize if they're similar sizes. And once they start seeing people in various body shapes wearing it, then we start getting like an influx of orders and stuff. So we do a lot of personal catering to direct to consumer. just through Instagram as well as Facebook. And we have been, that's just basically our model, is we just basically started with social media as our platform to advertise. You know, now we have to pay for the advertising, of course, but it does help to just specialize and customize things for a specific need base. And we've just had a following that's just started rolling and just increasing every single month. And during COVID, we thought we were done with. We thought we were just going to have to shut down and figure it out, maybe close until we could gather up and figure out what to do. It just started ballooning and increasing orders just because people weren't going anywhere and they were shopping and they wanted that personal touch and communication with others. And so our salon has helped others come together and have like-minded ideas and creativity to find each other as well. So we've been incredibly blessed that we were already had that platform in place, and it just ballooned after that. And plus we took on a lot of licensing, and just like what Ellen said, it helps when we do pre-orders. Pre-orders helped us a lot because it helped finance the goods, but also on a sustainability level, we were cutting exactly what we needed because it was an order already intact. Now, when we got into trouble was if the lead time started pushing out a little. If you got beyond a certain point when you're like estimating it, people got really upset. So you'd have to, you know, figure out and let them know, just be honest and just be very transparent with your customers when that happens. So we've had to do that a couple of times because of COVID, and, you know, things were slowing down, and the raw material, the chain supply, everything just started becoming a lot more difficult, especially if we had imports. And a lot of our difficult things came from Asia, and we felt a lot of that had slowed down a lot because of the steps involved in protecting their own factories, as well as chain supply and demand that skyrocketed. Even shipping was a nightmare. So we've had to do a lot of anticipation of that.
Amazing. Yeah. And amazing that you've been able to maintain the demand. I find it so interesting to see like what people have been buying and asking for when they're at home on lockdown. It's great.
A lot of easy pieces, a lot of like things that they, you know, a lot of customers are used to going into stores and having that personal experience of trying things on. Now you had to be on point with your measurements online, make sure the fit, if it was too big or too small, to make sure you add that level of information so that the experience that people were getting on the internet was as close as possible to a hands-on physical experience in a store. You know, nothing's more frustrating. You get something, you measure it, and it doesn't measure up to the information online. So that we had to clean up. We had to make sure it was on point.
For sure. And I think that's a huge pain point for a lot of e-com pages, actually, a huge learning opportunity. So great that you guys have like customized service and experience for people.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to add, because we are so personal towards direct to consumers, there has been a lot more demand in terms of ownership of who we are and what we stand for, and to make sure that our production across the world, as much as we can protect, we're standard labor, you know, labor standards that met people, you know, just the rules, the amnesty rules, the UN model. So we've had a lot of looking at our overseas factories to make sure they were compliant socially.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to people now.
It is, for sure. Definitely. All right. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Jodie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, everybody knows like lounge wins, I guess, right, in the last like few quarters. So for sure, we saw like a big shift of our knit world turn on, you know, knit dressing, knit dresses, sets, all of that. I mean, we kind of do that anyway, but definitely it became more focused on those categories: knit pants, pull-on pants, anything that's easy. I guess I would also say though, like Ali was saying, through our direct channel now, we can try new things, which we, you know, wouldn't have been able to probably sell an antibacterial hooded like onesie to any of our customers. But but now we can try those things and people are responding. So I don't know if that exactly answers the question, but I guess we've been able to like experiment a little bit more. Of course, it's nothing like on the dressier side, but just on the casual side, we can take a few more risks because we're selling direct and get a little more information about who's buying. And I would also say, because we've been able to grow such a significant business online, our audience has gotten much younger, which also opens up kind of a new category of stuff. I have cats that are just like playing right now, right under my feet. So I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's like a real wild party going on. Anyway, so that yeah, has been a really fun part, is like learning and getting some new customers. We also were able to basically open up a whole channel of men's audience, which we'd never had before.
Very cool. Okay, I'm gonna throw out this question to whoever wants to answer it. What's a piece of advice that you have for somebody who's looking to start their own brand today in the current market?
Focus.
Focus?
Yeah.
Know
Just
your
do
customers.
do it well.
Okay, so we have focus, know your customers, do it well. That's the advice we have for everybody. That's good advice.
I think also you need to, I guess this goes with doing it well, but make something that's really unique to you, that's special and stands out, because there's so much saturation in the market and there's a lot of bleh stuff out there. And I'm finding personally that people want things that are very sideline. So they have like the unique embroidery or whatever. So that sort of, yeah, unique handwriting, I think, is really important.
I would also add to make sure you're doing the financial analysis of all the products that you're doing, because sometimes it seems obvious, but you don't do that. You get so excited by something, and just make sure that you do, the analysis, and that it has good margin, that that the supply chain is in order. It's like all of that back end stuff that's so important, because if once you gain a customer and then you can't deliver to her, or they have a bad experience with quality, it's really hard to undo that mess. So just focus on that as well. It's really important.
Good advice.
I would say if you can, try to get a partner. Two heads are better than one, obviously, and make one person the COO or business oriented, and the other one has the last say in creative, so that you're not bickering and fighting over creative or finances. One person has the last say in one category and the other. I've done it by myself years ago. It's very hard. Now that I have a partner, I wouldn't say it's easier, but we've been able to expand further because we're doing two things separately so that we can come together as a team.
I agree. I mean, I have a business partner, and honestly, this would not have worked without each of us. And the other thing besides all of those points is the emotional piece, right? Like if there's two of you, when one is down, the other one's kind of the cheerleader, and like, it's okay, we're gonna make it through. And I mean, it really hit home when COVID hit, and we thought we had lost it all, and we just rallied together. It was almost like, I don't know, we forget also that piece, the emotional piece, because being an entrepreneur is an emotional ride. So two of you is, if you get along, obviously, makes it more fun as well. So I really couldn't have done this without my business partner.
Yeah, I can vouch for that for sure. I myself have a couple of partners, and it's a huge emotional component, and having the right partners is
Right.
so important, and not just jumping into business for the wrong reasons. For the sake of having a partner, you want to make sure you really complement each other. So really good point. Okay, amazing. So we have a couple questions waiting here that I'm just going to read out. First one is directed to Allie specifically, which is, how do you connect to your customers through social media during COVID? So you've talked about this transition to B2C and what that looks like. What strategies have you been finding the most useful to really reach people through the social media channels?
Yes, that's a wonderful question, and something that we're really learning as we go. I think that's why the beauty of D2C has really shed light into parts of the business that we weren't really understanding. So things that have been working is to be more authentic with our customers, to be more transparent. I mean, people didn't even know that my business partner and I are both Latin American, that we were a minority-owned business. There was a comment on social, like, how would you know, you two white women, that I can't remember what it was, but it was, just so, they didn't even know that we were this, female founded, minority owned business. So I think just being more open and honest, and it wasn't that we didn't want to be, I think we were just so focused on the wholesale model, which they don't ask that. Like, you don't know who the customer is, so you don't know that you need to tell them. We also use so many sustainable fabrics, and our customer doesn't know that because we haven't presented it in a way that really, highlights that. So I feel like just being real, being authentic. I mean, one of the reasons why I came on, I'm really usually very shy, but it's part of it. Like, people want to know who's behind the brand, and even if it's uncomfortable, like you have to do it now. People need to know. We've had a lot of success with social advertising, and that has been great. We've gotten to see, what types of people are coming into the brand, and other things, just campaigns focused on messaging that's on point. All the COVID messaging, we were talking about being, quarantined at home, and your pajamas were like a lifesaver to people, or loungewear, and just being like, listen, we're in this with you. So that type of messaging has been really powerful. So yeah, those are the things I would say. And then also more inclusivity. Like, we got a lot of call outs, like, you're not, using all types of women out there. Like, your models are, too thin. And then we took notice, and we've been making strides to offer that. And sometimes it wasn't out of not wanting to, it was just like, that's what the samples were made in, like, people don't kind of understand the whys necessarily. But the important thing is that you learn from your customer, and your customer is the one that's telling you, like, what direction to go in. So I hope that answered it.
It does. No, definitely. Great advice. Lots of good nuggets of wisdom in there. So thanks for sharing, and thanks for being on here today. I know it's good to step out of your comfort zone. We appreciate you contributing. You have a great story to share.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, so another question. This is for anybody who wants to answer. So whoever wants to volunteer for this one is, how do you measure success? Great question, because we have 4 very different businesses here. So what does it mean for you? How are you measuring success for your business? Do you want to answer?
I guess I can jump in here. I think this year has been a different type of year. So for me, it was very simple, like jobs. We just wanted to keep jobs and have jobs creation, and feel like we could give anybody an opportunity if they wanted to be there. And obviously, not lose money. So it was like a very low barrier. And then I think, each channel we look at differently. And at the end of the day, I think it just has to be like, for me, are we setting out, are we achieving the goals we want to achieve with our give back and our nonprofit? Are we profitable? And is everybody here happy and thriving and growing? And that's really a big part. For me, I learned, like, the hard ways. Culture is something that you really have to work at, and hire the right people, and really lead, hopefully by example, and have the right people with the right values in place. Because one bad person leads to 10 more. And so I think for me, the financial piece is just equally as important as, like, creating a really happy culture.
Amazing. The culture is very important. So I can definitely echo that sentiment.
Yeah. One thing I would have done differently, I don't think I answered that, was like fire faster. Like, if somebody's not a good fit, like, just like say goodbye right away, and you don't need to wait 5 or 10 years to learn that. Like, so, because that just, like, it's going to just get worse, not better. So I think that's like something hopefully people can remember. If something feels off, like it's probably a good time for you both to separate, whoever that person might be. If it's not a good fit for you, it's probably not a good fit for them either.
Yeah. And I can definitely, just to add to that, whether it's somebody internal to your company or an external supplier, the same rules apply. If your relationships are not working, they're not going to work in the future, it's sometimes just cutting ties is definitely the better way to go. And cut your losses as early as you can, because I've learned the hard way. All right, so we have another question. Could be for Jodie, could maybe be for Ellen. This is more about a higher price point sustainability question. Is starting a small clothing business, do you feel like the average consumer is educated enough to pay the premium that goes along with sustainable antibacterial fabric or practices? This viewer is wanting to know because they want to start their own brand, but are just trying to get a better idea of what where to invest in, if it makes sense. So I guess the question is, do you think that the average person is educated enough to see the value behind the price points in ethical brands?
The short answer is, I think that it has to be competitive. I don't think it can be more. I think that it's sort of a baseline. I think if you're starting something, it should be sustainable, period. And I don't necessarily think that it has to cost more. I think there's creative ways that it doesn't need to. I also think that educating the customer is really, really critical. So I think spending just as much time on product as what your message is really something that is like you must do.
Ellen, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I would agree that just be like the sustainability message is kind of becoming more basic now in a way, like it's just the way it should be, and we should be doing the best and better each season. As far as the average customers, I'd say they definitely need educating, and that is something that social media can really help with, because you can communicate whatever, like for me with my denim, that it's recycled, that it's water saving. People are really interested in the story as well, I think. They want to know, they want to learn, so that's quite exciting as an opportunity. As far as being willing to pay a higher price point, I think the transparency message is really important there. I think lots of people don't really realize, especially if you've got a wholesale market, that this, like, they think, oh, that's £200 or $300 for a dress, and then if they can see like actually the profit that's there for you with all your effort and energy that's gone into it, it's not like you're taking £180 of that 200. It's all the areas, and if you're using good fabrics and you're using a good supply base and you're paying your workers a good wage, it's going to be expensive. So actually, I think the question should more be asked the other way, to how are these clothes being made so cheaply in the market that the higher price point becomes a more norm.
I totally agree. So I guess the takeaway here is a lot of education. It's your job, if you have a brand or you're starting a brand, if that's what the price points are and they're justified because that's what it takes to offer ethical, sustainably made products, is educating people as to what goes into it, because there is a huge amount of many different layers and the price points are definitely justified. And it's just getting people to understand the different pieces to it, and get on board and focus more on investment pieces and thoughtful purchasing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, ladies. This has been great. Love to hear all your stories and all your interesting insights. I know we're just wrapping up to about 5 o'clock here, so I'm just going to pass it off to Betsy to see if she has any other questions and final thoughts for us.
I just have one kind of final thought, because I think a lot of the conversation today has been about that initial startup. And I started my companies almost 4 years ago. And for me, the critical thing was overcoming fear. I had a motto that I would say out loud to myself in the morning or when I was driving around the city. I even posted it on my Facebook to just kind of be there to remind me. And it's, may our courage be greater than our fear. And it sounds a little bit silly, but just reminding myself to do this really helped me to not hold myself back. And I was just really curious if any of you had sort of a motto or a mantra that you used to sort of just get yourself going to get started.
Well, I had a lot of fear for a long time, which is probably why I didn't start a brand till really quite far into my my career. But I think having children gave me a lot of courage to just do things. And my motto has always been, which is like a really kind of well-known motto, that I'd rather regret not doing something than not doing it. So I guess that fear was taken away because I thought, well, if it fails, at least I've tried. And I'd rather do that than not try and always wonder, what if?
Lynh, what about you?
I always go back to this, I can't remember what the song was because my husband always puts the quote, but it says, scratch your name into the fabric of this world before you go. And, you know, that to me, like whatever impact you can make on this world, you do have one life. And what helps me is when I started any of the ventures, I would tell someone. That broke the fear because it would put ownership on, okay, I'm putting a placeholder right now because I just told so-and-so. And then I told another person. So now I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to have to generate form a entity, form a company because I started talking about it already and people are excited to see what. So it almost helped me get the ball going by taking, you know, being fearful, however, getting the ball rolling by just starting to talk about it. That helps all the time.
Oksana, how about you? You've started a business as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me and my team, I think it's always, we're coming back to learn, adapt, iterate. It's literally the 3 words we repeat around a regular basis. It's constantly a learning curve. It's constantly an adaptation. And this concept of like having fear and needing courage and feeling uncomfortable trying new things, I think it's really common and it's a shared feeling for everybody at every stage of business. Whether you've been in business for 25 years or you started a month ago, things are scary and it's hard trying new things. And, you know, we were just having this conversation the other day, learning how to do reels on Instagram. Me and my partners have been trying to learn how to do it. And it's like, I feel like an old woman learning new technology and I'm very confused. And it's this mental block where, you know, you start being good at something and you feel good about it. And then there's something in the world changes. And suddenly, again, you feel like you're at the beginning and you don't know what you're doing. So I think the overlying concept, if you want to start a business, always seems to be, or run a business, is just be open to learning new things, adapt when they come, and iterate when you try the first time. There's my same formula for everything.
Jodie, what about you?
I have mantras in every single room of my house. We put them on everything we ship. They're on every garment, every mask, every t-shirt. I just grabbed this. It's just like right behind me. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. But yeah, I have one in the bathroom that says, let the universe help you. Yeah. All over the place because we need it, because around every corner I think is like a terror. So yeah.
That's amazing. Ali, what about you?
Well, I like to frame it in terms of your intuition versus like your monkey mind. You know, like the intuition knows, like, you know, in your gut when something feels right, but then this monkey mind like creeps in and starts telling you, you know, this maybe isn't such a great idea. And so like to understand the difference and to really center yourself. And I mean, personally, I do a lot of meditation, a lot of mantras. I use a lot of Sanskrit mantras. They just work for me. But yeah, just to really understand that concept, that it's not really you, right? It's this like mind coming in, sabotaging or trying to sabotage what you really feel in your gut is what you should do. So that's my little 2 cents worth.
Monkey mind. I feel like that's gonna insert its way into my lingo.
Yeah, it really like kind of can take you in all these different directions, and it's really like you know, it just feels like you can't control it, but you really can. Like you really can dominate the mind and go back to the heart and the intuition and the truth and all those, you know, kind of out there things.
I love it. Well, I just want to thank all of you so much for being a part of this. I know hearing your stories was super inspirational to me, and I'm sure to everybody that was listening today. So thank you again for participating, and I guess we'll leave it at that.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
for having us.
Bye.
Bye.